Okay, in regards to like your high protein, high fat diets and things like that, examples being keto, carnivore diet, Atkins being one of the famous ones from the old days of yore. So I've had a go at a few of those. I have to admit that my personal tastes suits really well. I really like basically anything that just gives me heaps of meat to eat. I love. Question of just how healthy they are. Now that one's up for argument, and everyone's got an opinion on that one. So I'm not going to really go into that outside of just make sure that your current state of health is within an appropriate level to be able to cope with these things, and make sure you keep checkups with your doctor to ensure that there's nothing bad or untoward happening. In the grand scheme of life, you know, ultimately it's what you should be doing anyway, and realistically, in my view, if you're going to be eating large amounts of rubbish food, no, let's start again. Okay, heavily restrictive diets like your high protein and high fat diets like keto and carnivore and ones like that. There's plenty of variations on it, and the jury's still out very heavily on just how healthy or unhealthy they are. Can they be used for weight loss? Heck yes, they can. That being said, there's a lot of various ways that you can do weight loss. From my personal experience, I've actually anything that gives me lots of meat to eat, I love meat. I will never ever become a vegetarian or a vegan, based on the fact that the idea of not eating meat again is terrible to me. But whatever choice you choose. Ultimately, whatever you're doing, make sure that you are in an appropriate level of health, cardiovascular, like heart, blood pressure and so forth, that you can actually do any of the more drastic diets. If you do decide to go down that path, talk to your doctor and get regular checkups, make sure everything's going well. This is ultimately the most important thing. Realistically, any diet that you're doing, no matter how good, bad or indifferent, if it's different to what you're used to, because your body will adapt and get used to things, then you should get yourself regular checkups to make sure everything's going smoothly anyway. It's a good idea just to keep an eye on things, and actually you should probably do it regardless, no matter what. All right, so back into the idea of your keto and your protein and so forth. All right, so the basic premise, the basic idea behind them. Now, if you want to get fine details about it, go online. There is a massive amount of information there. It's not like you're going to be left on your own with it. But the basic idea being is that you're getting most of your calories from either proteins or fats. So proteins, your body as a rule won't convert into fat, so it's a relatively safe one to eat based on that. It also is for its weight, calories wise, actually works out quite well. So much weird stuff involved with that and make your head explode, but based on how your body will digest it, it will tend to keep you fuller for longer. Your body will process it in a better way in regards to fat storage, weight loss, and which ultimately, if you're trying to lose weight, that's the great thing about it. The ones that are more fats and oils based, the idea being is that you make sure that you have the good quality ones because there are good quality ones. You know, you'll regularly see it on some ads. It's like, with good oils. And most of the things that are advertising that don't have good oils are actually bad for you. But good oils exist. If you cut it all out of your diet entirely, it's actually a very bad thing. So the idea there being is that the calories in fats and oils is a lot higher. It, once again, similar to your protein, it will keep you fuller for longer, and therefore you'll eat less. That being the idea. So basic idea then is what you're doing is you're forcing your body into a ketosis, thus the name for keto diet. Basically makes your body focus on fats rather than carbs. So under normal circumstances, your metabolism will generally go, pretty sure it's carbs, then fats, then proteins, although the fat and protein one can get mixed up at certain times for certain situations. But the idea here being is to put your body into a state where it focuses on fats primarily, because you're not taking carbohydrates in, so your body basically focuses on the fats because it's its next best source. It is a very high and rich source of energy. Making your body burn that gets very efficient at burning it. So the idea then being is that you start actually burning off your fat stores and lose weight. Now this does work. The idea then being is that you also have to be careful if you go too far. What you wind up doing is you're just eating a whole heap of fatty stuff, and you'll just get fat. So, like everything, there's a degree of moderation and a degree of control that should be used with it as well. That being said, if it's done correctly, the overeating side of it generally won't last for particularly long, because you'll find your body starting to get satisfied, you get less spikes, and most of us, our issue is the simple carbs that we're eating, the sugaries, the high sugar items, and because what happens with that is you get a spike of energy, it goes up, and then you crash. Your body's searching for energy sources, which what you've given it is like super easy energy sources, like sugar, and that's why you wind up low on energy. And if you eat too much of it, then obviously that it winds up getting converted to fat, you get fat as well. So it's actually in base principle is actually quite a good principle, and it has been shown it does work. Is it good for your health long term? Well, that's another argument, so which I'm not really going to get into because I don't know enough about it to get into it. Once again, if you do want to go for it, it is a very different taste and dietary process. Getting carbs out of your system can be quite difficult, particularly if your poison is high carb, high sugar, which realistically that's going to be a large chunk of us. Most of us aren't getting fat from eating low carb and high fat foods. We're eating high carbs and high fats, and that's the problem, because we're doing high in both. Now, some of you will probably look at it, I'm sure, if this actually gets any exposure, and it'll be like, oh, that's really, really bad for you, and you shouldn't do that, and rah, 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 and all the rest of that rubbish. So the counter argument to that is, if you're eating huge amounts of simple carbohydrates, sugars, junk food, and all the rest of it, is it actually any better? Are you actually doing anything worse by going to one of these? Realistically, no, you're not. Let's be realistic about it. You know, having people not doing things like this because they're like, oh, it's bad for your health because, oh no, I can't get, you know, I'm missing out on this and I'm missing out on that. Seriously, if you're in a state where you're overweight, you're eating and drinking all the wrong stuff, that's the case anyway. Let's be real. All right, what you're getting is all of these super healthy fitness junkies complaining that you shouldn't be doing that, these people are in a good state of health already. You know? And yes, it might not be a good idea for them. And yes, it might not be a good idea for you either. That is why, like, any drastic change in your diet can cause a massive stress on your body. So that's why I say always check with your doctor. Make sure, do regular checkups. Make sure that there's nothing major there that's going to cause you any problems, or at least there's nothing that they can find that's going to cause you any major problems with a drastic change before doing anything like this. So if you're going to do any of the drastic changes, get a doctor's checkup and make sure. In and of itself, is it worse than the rubbish and terror that you're doing to your body at the moment? Probably not. So, you know, from that angle, you know, it's not really a valid argument ultimately, in my opinion. So if it does interest you and you think it's something that it may be worthwhile for you, please do a little more research on it, do some checking online, find some recipes, you know, even give yourself a recipe, you know, try a recipe or two before actually jumping into it to see whether or not your taste buds can actually handle it. Not a bad way to go. But if you do commit to it, make sure you commit to it, because if you mix the carbs in with it, it destroys the process entirely. And make sure you do go and check with a doctor first, because it can be very stressful to your body, particularly if there's some kind of underlying heart issue or blood pressure issue. Those are the big ones. Those are the ones that are, you know, those are the areas where realistically it's most important for you to make a change. But the changes you have to be so much more careful with, because what your body goes through in that process. All right, hopefully this has actually been of some benefit to some of you out there. Thank you very much for watching again. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button, please. Apparently you need to click it twice, and so that you actually get notified when my next video comes out. Thank you very much for sticking with me, and I'll catch you next time.